picture this. James Gunn and Peter Safran, the current dynamic duo of Promises, had fans pretty convinced they weren't going to change anything right out of the gate. But now it appears some projects were, well, dead on arrival, and one of those appeared to be Superman and Lois. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about what happened to the show, how this pretty much is exactly what James Gunn said wouldn't happen, and why some fans are pretty upset. Now, before we do that though, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and ring that bell for all the updates. We do daily Marvel and DC videos, and we want to be your place for all the superhero news, but we're going to bring it to you truthfully and transparently so you are in the know. Well, ever since the new DC Studios was formed and James Gunn and Peter Safran took over, many of us were wondering what the future for multiple DC projects looked like. James Gunn and Peter Safran had pretty much promised fans that significant changes were not going to happen right away. It even expressed a pretty high level of openness on upcoming projects and existing projects like television shows and animated series. However, some recent revelations seem to completely contradict these statements, particularly when it comes to Superman and Lois. Now, recently in an interview with The Wrap, CW executives shared some insight into the end of an era for DC shows on that network, and contrary to earlier assurances from James Gunn and Peter Safran, it was revealed that Superman and Lois would not continue beyond its fourth season. This decision was attributed to CW's shift to move away from scripted shows, something we had heard for a while but had never been confirmed. Now, this is where the big contradiction comes in, because apparently Superman and Lois was one of those shows that they wanted to live on. And network executives sought to work with various partners and expressed a desire to keep the show on the air, mostly due to its fairly impressive performance in the ratings, and honestly, it is a fan favorite. However, apparently these requests were denied, and what was the reason? Well, apparently Warner Brothers does not want a competing Superman product in the marketplace. This is something that James Gunn and Peter Safran pretty much promised wouldn't happen, and honestly guys, it is a full-on contradiction to what we were told. Now, does it make sense? Well, probably so. Just like the discussion about, just like conversations about other networks grabbing various DC characters and bringing them to life alongside what Gunn is doing, it makes the most business sense, and I believe what Gunn is trying to do is avoid any competing brands. Now, to be fair, this is completely inconsistent with, say, Batman, who he seems just fine having his Batman in the DCU and Matt Reeves' Batman living separately in his own Elseworld zone. Obviously, these contradictions have some fans a little, concerned, but ultimately I think probably their goal is to have a market very ready for a Superman project, and without any Superman anywhere else, it gives the movie the best chance of success. Additionally, Superman Legacy is really kicking off the new DCU, and they need it to be a big hit, so I'm pretty sure they'll want to knock down any obstructions or anything that can siphon any energy away from the film. Should Superman Legacy utterly fail, well, quite honestly guys, I think the whole DCU is in big trouble, and this is probably Gunn, even though he's being hypocritical, trying to avoid that happening to this project. Now, Superman and Lois will get a fourth season. It's going to wrap up the show. If you don't watch the show, it's pretty great. We don't cover it very heavily on this channel because the weekly obligations are sometimes very hard to keep up with. I do find it a little unnerving. Gunn more or less wasn't very transparent here, but I'm pretty sure if challenged, they'll probably hang their hat on the idea that the show was wrapping up anyway. It was still super popular, but to be fair, also super expensive, had already been trimmed down quite a bit from season 3, and it felt like to me for a while that the show was gonna wrap up soon, and I think this is ultimately just a little earlier than expected.